stray goose blocked the tracks, then workers heard a cry below. The first person to see the goose standing on the train tracks was Martin Hale, and at first he was more annoyed than worried. It was 5:42 on a wet October morning, the kind of morning when the sky over Millbrook looked like a sheet of cold iron and the air smelled of rain, diesel, and fallen leaves. Martin had worked on the North Valley rail line for 28 years, long enough to know every bend in the track, every weak signal box, every patch of weeds that grew too close to the sleepers. He was used to delays. He was used to broken switches, flooded ditches, signal faults, and passengers who thought shouting could repair an electrical problem faster. But he was not used to a goose blocking the morning maintenance trolley. The bird stood in the middle of the rails just before the old brick bridge outside Millbrook Station, neck raised, orange feet planted on the wet wooden sleepers, feathers slick with rain. It was a large gray and white domestic goose, not one of the wild birds that passed over the marsh in winter. A strip of blue ribbon or plastic was caught around one leg, and mud covered its belly as if it had been crawling through a ditch. It stared at the approaching trolley with such fierce determination that Martin slowed before his assistant even said anything. Beside him, 22-year-old Chloe Reed leaned forward, rain dripping from the edge of her hard hat. "Is that a goose?" Martin braked the trolley with a squeal. "Unfortunately, yes." The goose stretched its wings and hissed. Chloe blinked. "It's angry." "It's a goose," Martin said. "That's their natural state." He climbed down onto the gravel shoulder and waved both arms. "Go on, move." The goose did not move. Martin stepped closer. The goose lowered its head, opened its beak, and charged 3 steps toward him. Martin jumped back. Chloe tried not to laugh and failed. "It's not funny," Martin snapped. "It's a little funny." "It'll be less funny if the 6:10 commuter train gets held because of poultry." Chloe checked her watch. "We've got 28 minutes before the first train. Then plenty of time for you to negotiate." "No thanks. It looks like it has a personal grudge." Martin muttered under his breath and tried again, this time approaching from the side. The goose shuffled sideways too, keeping its body between him and the bridge. Its wings trembled, but it did not retreat. Instead, it looked toward the bridge, then back at Martin, then toward the bridge again. That made him pause. The old Willow Creek Bridge was not large, just a short brick railway bridge crossing a drainage channel that ran beneath the tracks toward the river. The creek was usually shallow, but the past 2 days of heavy rain had swollen it into a fast brown rush. Water moved below with a hollow churning sound. Branches, leaves, and bits of rubbish were jammed against the stone supports. The goose hissed again. Chloe climbed down from the trolley. "Martin, look at her leg." Martin glanced at the bird again. The blue strip was not ribbon. It was a torn piece of fabric tangled around the goose's leg. Dark blue with a little yellow star pattern, a child's scarf maybe. His irritation began to fade. "Where did you come from?" he murmured. The goose turned toward the bridge and gave a loud, urgent honk. From beneath the bridge came a faint sound. Martin went still. Chloe looked at him. "Did you hear that?" The rain pattered on rails and leaves. Water rushed under the bridge. Then it came again. A cry, small, weak, human. Martin's face changed instantly. "Call control. Stop all trains on this line now." Chloe grabbed the radio. "Control, this is maintenance trolley 3 near Willow Creek Bridge. Possible person under the tracks. Repeat, possible person under the bridge. Request immediate line stop and emergency services." Martin was already moving toward the bridge, but the goose blocked him again, hissing wildly. "I'm trying to help," he shouted. The goose flapped its wings, then turned and waddled toward the edge of the bridge approach, stopping near a narrow maintenance path that led down the embankment. It looked back. Chloe lowered the radio slowly. "She's showing us where to go." Martin did not answer. He followed. The path was slick with mud and fallen leaves. Martin grabbed the railing and descended carefully. The goose went ahead of him, slipping once, catching itself, then continuing down toward the creek. At the base of the bridge, the noise of the water was much louder. The rain had turned the drainage channel into a dangerous torrent. Branches battered against the stone arch. The air smelled of mud, iron, and wet brick. The Goose hurried toward a patch of reeds caught against the support wall. Then Martin saw it. A small hand. It was gripping a root just above the waterline. For one terrible second, he could not process what he was seeing. Then a child's face appeared between the reeds and debris, pale and streaked with mud, eyes half closed, lips blue from cold. A little boy was wedged in the narrow space between the bridge wall and a mass of branches, his lower body partly in the water. One arm was trapped in the blue scarf tangled around both a root and the goose's leg fabric. The boy looked no more than 6. Chloe arrived behind Martin and gasped, "Oh my God!" Martin dropped to his knees on the muddy bank. "Hey, can you hear me?" The boy's eyes fluttered. "Help," he whispered. Martin's voice softened. "We're here. You're not alone. What's your name?" "Ben," the boy breathed. The Goose moved close to the water, honking sharply. The boy's eyes shifted toward it. "Daisy," he whispered. Martin looked at the Goose. Daisy. The Goose had a name. Chloe spoke into the radio again, voice tight but controlled. "Control, confirmed child trapped under Willow Creek Bridge. Alive, water rising. Need fire rescue, ambulance, police. Line stop confirmed?" The reply crackled back. "All rail traffic halted. Emergency services dispatched. Keep clear of unstable water. Do not enter channel unless immediate life risk." Martin almost laughed bitterly. The child was already in immediate life risk. The water slapped against the boy's coat, rising with every surge. If the branch jam shifted, he could be pulled under the bridge and swept toward the river. Martin scanned the debris. The boy seemed pinned by branches and the scarf wrapped around his arm. The Goose had likely been tangled with the same scarf at some point. The fabric around her leg was torn, meaning she had pulled herself free or nearly free, then climbed up to the tracks, to stop someone, to bring help. "Ben," Martin called. "Listen carefully. Don't pull. Don't try to move. Help is coming." "My sister," Ben whispered. Martin froze. "What?" The boy coughed weakly. "Lily." Chloe's eyes widened. "There's another child?" Martin looked around desperately. The water, the reeds, the debris, the far bank, nothing, no other movement. "Ben, where is Lily?" The boy started crying, small broken sounds barely louder than the rain. "She fell." Martin turned to Chloe. "We need search downstream." Chloe radioed again, escalating the call. The morning had become something much larger than a goose on the tracks. Later, the police would piece together what had happened. Ben and his 9-year-old sister Lily had been staying with their grandmother on the edge of Millbrook while their mother worked an early hospital shift. Their grandmother thought they were asleep, but Daisy, the family's goose, had escaped from the back garden during the night storm after the wind blew open a gate. Lily worried Daisy would reach the road, put on her coat and scarf, and followed her. Ben followed Lily. In the dark, near the creek path, Lily slipped on the muddy bank. Ben tried to grab her scarf. The scarf snagged on a root. Daisy became tangled in it too. The water dragged Lily downstream while Ben was left trapped against the bridge, caught in debris and fabric, too cold and frightened to climb out. Daisy had somehow torn free, but she had not gone home. She had climbed to the railway line and stood where the next humans would be forced to stop. Firefighters arrived within 9 minutes, though to Martin it felt like hours. The first crew came from Millbrook Station, followed by police, paramedics, and a swift water rescue team. The old rail bridge was closed completely. The 6:10 train was stopped 2 stations away. For once, no one complained. Fire Captain Irene Walsh took command. She was a compact woman in her 40s with a voice that cut through rain, panic, and rushing water. "Child trapped under the bridge, possible second child downstream, water rising. I want ropes upstream and downstream. Nobody enters without a line." A firefighter clipped into a harness and descended to Ben. Another crew began searching downstream along both banks. Police officers checked the footpath and nearby gardens. A paramedic crouched beside Chloe and asked for every detail Ben had said. Daisy the goose refused to leave the bank. A firefighter tried gently to move her back, but she hissed and flapped until Captain Walsh said, "Let the goose stay if she's not in the way. She's calmer there than attacking my crew." Martin stood beside Chloe at the top of the embankment, soaked through, useless now that professionals had taken over. His hands shook. He kept seeing the tiny hand gripping the root. He kept hearing Ben say, "Lily fell." Below, the rescuer reached Ben and secured him with a strap before cutting away the scarf. The boy cried out as the pressure released from his arm. Daisy honked frantically from the bank. "Easy," Martin whispered, though he did not know whether he meant the goose, the child, or himself. Ben was lifted from the debris after 12 terrifying minutes. He was cold, bruised, and barely able to stay awake, but alive. As paramedics wrapped him in thermal blankets, he turned his head toward Daisy. "My goose," he whispered. Daisy stretched her neck toward him and made a softer sound, nothing like the furious honks from before. Then a shout came from downstream. "Found her!" Everything stopped. The swift water team had located Lily nearly 200 meters down the creek, caught against a fallen willow branch where the channel widened before the river. She was unconscious, tangled in reeds, but her head was above water. A rescuer entered the current on a rope while another crew anchored downstream. Martin could not see much from the bridge, only flashing lights through trees and people running along the bank. Chloe stood beside him, hands pressed to her mouth. Daisy went silent. Minutes crawled. Then Captain Walsh's radio crackled. "Second child recovered. Pulse present. Starting treatment." Pulse present. Chloe began to cry. Martin bent forward with both hands on his knees, breathing hard. Daisy honked once, sharp and loud, as if announcing that humans had finally done the obvious. Both children were taken to the hospital. Ben had hypothermia, bruising, and a sprained wrist. Lily was worse, severe hypothermia, water inhalation, and a head injury from striking rocks or branches. Doctors placed her in intensive care where she remained unconscious for nearly a day. Their mother, Anna Mercer, arrived at the hospital still wearing her nurse uniform from the early shift she had never finished. She had saved other people's children many times. Now she stood outside her daughter's room, shaking so badly another nurse had to hold her upright. When Ben was awake enough to explain, he told everyone about Daisy. "She got stuck too," he whispered. Then she got out. She went up. She made the train people stop. Anna looked at Martin, who had come to the hospital with Chloe to give a statement. "You stopped?" she said. Martin nodded. "She wouldn't let us pass." Anna covered her mouth. "If the train had come..." Martin did not finish the thought. If the train had come, Daisy might have been killed. If Daisy had not stopped the trolley, no one would have heard Ben before the water rose higher. If Ben had been swept away too, nobody might have known where Lily had gone until too late. A goose had blocked the tracks, and 2 children were alive. Daisy became famous by noon. At first, she was kept in a temporary crate by animal control because no one knew whether she was injured. She hated this arrangement and expressed herself with such violence that one officer called her the feathered nightmare. A veterinarian examined her and found bruising, a cut on one foot, and deep exhaustion. The blue fabric had rubbed her leg raw, but she would recover. When Anna heard Daisy had been taken to the animal clinic, she asked Martin to bring her family's goose home once the vet allowed it. Martin blinked. "Me?" "She trusts you," Anna said. "She tried to bite me." "That means she likes you more than most people." Martin could not argue. 2 days later, Lily woke. Her first clear question was about Ben. Her second was about Daisy. When the doctors told her the goose was alive, she cried silently into her pillow. Anna sat beside her and stroked her hair, trying not to cry harder than her child. 3 days after that, the hospital made an exception. Daisy was brought to the small courtyard outside the pediatric ward in a travel pen, accompanied by Anna, Martin, Chloe, and the veterinarian. Ben came down in a wheelchair, though he insisted he could walk. Lily watched from another wheelchair, wrapped in a blanket, pale and weak but awake. The moment Daisy saw the children, she went still. Then she honked. Ben laughed for the first time since the accident. Lily reached one trembling hand through the safe gap in the pen. Daisy stepped forward and gently touched her beak to the girl's fingers. "I'm sorry I chased you," Lily whispered. Daisy made a low sound. Martin stood behind them, eyes burning. Chloe whispered, "She brought help." Lily looked up. "Daisy always yells when something is wrong." Ben nodded. "Mostly when she wants peas." Everyone laughed, and the laughter broke the terrible tension that had held them for days. The story changed Millbrook in ways no one expected. The railway company inspected the old bridge and drainage channel more thoroughly. Workers found that storm debris had been collecting under the bridge for months, making the current more dangerous during heavy rain. The council repaired the creek path, added stronger fencing near the bank, and installed warning signs. The rail line added motion cameras near the bridge approach to detect obstructions on the tracks. The maintenance team also changed. Martin had spent years thinking of the track as metal, bolts, schedules, and rules. After Daisy, he began listening differently during inspections. Chloe did too. A strange noise under a bridge, disturbed mud near a fence, an animal behaving wrong. None of it seemed unimportant anymore. Captain Walsh used the rescue in community safety talks. "Do not go near floodwater," she told children at the school assembly. "Do not chase pets near rivers and storms. Get an adult. Call for help." Lily sat in the front row, cheeks red. Then Captain Walsh added, "And if a goose blocks your path, maybe ask why." The whole hall laughed. Daisy, who had been invited to the school courtyard afterward as an honored guest, tried to bite the head teacher's shoelace. Her reputation only improved. Anna installed 2 new latches on the garden gate. Ben and Lily were not allowed near the creek alone anymore. Their grandmother cried for weeks from guilt, though Anna never blamed her. Storms happen, children make frightened decisions, gates fail. It took time for everyone to forgive themselves. Daisy recovered fully and returned to ruling the Mercer Garden with absolute authority. She patrolled the fence, chased pigeons, guarded the vegetable patch, and screamed at delivery drivers. But when Martin visited with Chloe one Saturday to check on the children, Daisy walked straight to him and stood beside his boots. Martin looked down. "Don't start." Daisy nipped his trouser cuff. Ben giggled. "She remembers you." Martin sighed. "I wish she'd remember someone else." But he reached into his pocket and produced a small bag of peas. Anna raised an eyebrow. "You brought treats?" "For morale," Martin said. "Whose morale?" "Mine." Months passed and the children healed. Lily struggled with nightmares about water, but therapy helped. Ben became nervous around storms. Daisy's honk, once merely annoying, became comforting to him. If Daisy was yelling in the garden, then she was safe. If she was safe, the gate was closed. If the gate was closed, the night could not happen again. Lily returned to school with a scar near her hairline and a deep seriousness that had not been there before. She wrote a class essay titled, "Why You Should Listen to Geese," which began as a safety assignment and became so heartfelt that her teacher sent it to the local newspaper. In it, Lily wrote, "Daisy did not know about trains or emergency calls. She only knew we were gone and Ben was crying. She stood on the tracks because people had to stop there. She is loud and bossy and sometimes mean, but she saved us. I think love can be bossy too." Martin cut the article out and kept it folded in his rail safety notebook. He never told Chloe. She found it anyway. A year after the rescue, Millbrook held a small ceremony near the station to thank the rescue teams and raise awareness about flood safety. The railway company unveiled a plaque at the maintenance shed, not on the bridge, because Martin refused to encourage people to gather near the tracks. The plaque read, "For Ben and Lily, for the rescuers who answered, and for Daisy who made us stop." Daisy attended the ceremony wearing a blue ribbon that matched the scarf fabric from that morning. She removed it within 6 minutes and tried to eat it. The crowd applauded anyway. Martin gave a short speech, which he hated. "I've worked on the line most of my life," he said, looking uncomfortable in his clean jacket. "We are trained to notice faults, cracks, loose bolts, signals, flooding. That morning the fault was a goose. Or so I thought. But she knew something was wrong before we did. We stopped because she made us stop. Sometimes that's the difference." He looked toward Daisy, who was hissing at a photographer. "Not every warning looks official," Martin said. "Pay attention anyway." Years later, the story of Daisy and the bridge became one of those local tales that every child in Millbrook knew. New railway workers heard it during safety training. School children heard it during River Safety Week. Parents told it when children tried to chase pets after dark. Daisy grew older, heavier, and even less tolerant of nonsense. Her feathers lost some of their shine, but her voice remained powerful enough to ruin a peaceful afternoon from 3 gardens away. Ben and Lily grew too. Ben became fascinated with trains, perhaps because the thing that nearly made the story worse had also become part of what saved them. Martin took him to the maintenance yard when he was older and showed him how track inspections worked. Lily became interested in animal behavior and later volunteered at a wildlife rescue center, even though Daisy was not wildlife and would have been offended by the comparison. On rainy nights, both children still remembered. But the memory changed shape. It was no longer only water, fear, and cold. It was also a goose standing on wet rails in the gray morning, refusing to move. It was Martin's voice from above the bridge, Chloe's radio call, firefighters with ropes, their mother's hands, Daisy in the hospital courtyard touching Lily's fingers with her beak. The rescue did not erase the terror. It gave the terror an ending. When Daisy died, many years later, old and indignant until the very end, the Mercer family buried her beneath the apple tree in the back garden. Martin came. Chloe came. Captain Walsh came in uniform, which would have embarrassed Daisy if geese cared about ceremony. Ben placed peas on the little grave. Lily placed a blue ribbon there. Anna cried quietly. "She was impossible," she said. Martin nodded. "Most heroes are, in my experience." Lily smiled through tears. The garden felt strangely silent without Daisy's watchful presence. But at the station, trains still slowed near Willow Creek Bridge during heavy rain. The cameras still monitored the track. The drainage channel was still cleared before storm season. The plaque still hung at the maintenance shed. And whenever a new worker laughed at the idea of a goose being included in safety training, Martin, older now and close to retirement, would point toward the bridge and say, "That goose stopped a train line before the water took 2 children. You can laugh after you inspect the drainage." No one laughed after that. So before we go, remember this. Sometimes the thing blocking your way is not an inconvenience. Sometimes it is a warning. A stray goose stood on the tracks in the rain, hissing at workers who only wanted to do their job. Minutes later, they heard a cry below the bridge and found a child trapped in the rising water. Then another swept downstream. Daisy did not know schedules. She did not know rail signals. She did not know rescue procedure. She only knew someone was below, and humans needed to stop long enough to listen. And because she refused to move, 2 children were brought home alive.